Danny G is what I'd call a 1%er prison-wise, probably less than 1%. Best example that everyone will know will be Charlie Bronson. Yeah. Very disruptive prisoner, very violent, hard man, who's made a career out of being in prison. And there's lots of prisoners like him, not so well known, Danny G being one of them. Now, the thing that Danny G brings to the party is his physicality. He's a big lad. He's from a notorious family in Liverpool that are well known. Anyone from Liverpool, if you ask them where they know, they all know who the G's are. Spent a lot of time as a young offender or young person in prison, in and out of prison, and he'll have been battered stupid. So people like Danny G, Charles Bronson, the prison service, to some extent, creates these people.
Yeah.
They don't like the system. They certainly have no respect for prison officers, and they're not fearful of anything. So this lad, maybe 6'2", the first time I saw him, the thing that struck me being a rugby player, thick neck and thick wrists and very, very powerful. A fit 17 stone, maybe unfit 20 stone, but he'd got everything. When I worked on K-Wing, we had lads as big as Danny G, Jim Eds, some really big lads, but they weren't as problematic because these 1%ers have an attitude as well. They have an air about them, and they can cause problems. They can disrupt the whole prison.
Yeah. And what was it that he drew your attention to him? What was he doing?
Okay, Saturday night I was trained by the prison service, tornado training. That's your riot training to your common man. Every prison has so many officers who are tornado trained. You go away, just same as the police and the army. They put you in as realistic situations as possible, throw things at you. And I mean, they used to really throw things at you. You come away battered and bruised. However, health and safety being what it is now, they're going to be throwing beanbags and tennis balls soon instead of...
What were they throwing?
Blocks of wood. When I come away from my week, I had a bruise, 6 inch by 6 inch on my abdomen, swollen ankle or whatever. You just get on with it. The thing was, when I went from Strangeways, a lot of people at Strangeways wanted to be on the tornado team, do the training, bit of kudos. And it's part of the sort of macho type prison officer thing.
Yeah.
What struck me when we went training was that some of the other prisons, staff were forced to go. So some of the smaller prisons, you get people who didn't want to be in there, fully kitted up, getting things thrown at them, not good. Anyway, so Danny G, Saturday night, just cracked a can, literally, took froth off a can of Stones. That's a Sheffield alcoholic bitter, partial to that, being from Sheffield. Strangeways comes up, so I knew what it was straight away. The previous night, Friday night, I'd been in the jail. Danny G, he was in the segregation unit at that time. Quite often these prisoners spend a lot of time in segregation units, solitary confinement, as it's known abroad, in the shoe, that sort of thing, or on special units, special intervention units, things like this. There's lots of them dotted about in the prison service. And the thing about these units, segregations, and of course prison health cares, is it's quite a high staffing to prisoner ratio. And it's a very, very strict regime. Not a lot of time out of cell. Certainly in our prison service, segregation prisoners don't socialise with each other, be out one at a time. They might get a couple on the yard, on separate yards, but they certainly won't be socialising with each other. So this Friday night, I don't know what he kicked off about. I do know that 11 staff got kitted up. When I say got kitted up, overalls, knee pads, shin pads, elbow pads, helmets, gloves. And he was threatening to smash a cell up, or he had smashed a cell up. So this was a planned removal, as we call. Two sorts of restraint in prison. There's a planned removal and there's spontaneous. Spontaneous, obviously, when something happens, somebody kicks off or whatever, bam, you're in there. Anyway, these 11 staff have gone in, and he's basically ragged them all over. Not necessarily battered them, The thing about this lad
11
is...
at once?
11 staff. Now, what you have to understand is 11 people have been picked to go in there. If you had a choice and you picked the 11 biggest lads in that prison, or lasses, or whatever, you know, that way-minded staff, it'd have been a different matter. But it's not like that in the prison service. You can't pick and choose. You use what you've got. So anyway, he didn't necessarily batter him. What he did do was he very astute, right? He's been in loads of restraints. He's had loads of officers coming at him with shields, the full gear on. He pulled helmets off, you know, pushed people to the floor. Staff were in and out, sweating, helmets back on. There was one lad, quite a big lad in the seg, about 6'2", not as heavy as me, but maybe 15 stone. Got back of his helmet, and he had his head going down to his crutch like he was giving him a blowjob, you know. And this is what he's doing, because this is a powerful lad. And the other thing is, as a prison officer, you're taught to restrain people.
Yeah.
You know, arm locks and things like this. It's physicality. You are not restraining that lad.
Yeah.
You know, there's very few prison officers in the service, other than maybe the Nationals. The Nationals are sort of the elite of the prison service, and they live for restraints and riots and things like that. They're specially trained. So, you know, he just ragged people about. In the end, you know, the governor's like pleading with him. You know, what's this? He just said, look, ask me to move, and I'll move. So that's what happened.
Bloody hell.
Basically, the staff come out of the cell, got his kit, and he moved into the special cell.
Yeah.
Right, a special cell. I don't know when you had these in America. I've seen solitary and the shoe and that in America, and they're pretty basic. Special cell, you might have 1 or 2 in prison located in the segregation unit. It's a bare cell. There's no toilet. You get a wooden plinth, maybe 6 foot by 3 foot, 2 inch off the floor. It's just a concrete cell. Most of them have a hatch in the door, so you can pass things in and out.
Yeah.
And what they do have usually is a staircase at the side, and they have observation points.
Okay.
You have to have governor's permission now. It used to be more regularly used, but now you definitely need governor's permission to put people in these special conditions.
Yeah.
And I think it's only 24 hours, and then somebody needs to sign it up for another 24 hours.
Right.
So he's trotted in there like with whatever belongings he was allowed to take. I don't know what he took in there. Like I said, there's a staircase at the side and these observation points. And these observation points are in the ceiling. And they're there so you can see what's going on. Because if you have to go in that cell with Danny G or anyone else, you know, they might be stood off to the side, out your view, with a weapon. Prolific self-harmers might well get put in this special cell. So you need to make sure people are safe. And if you're going in there, that you're safe and you know what's going on. So that's where he's been put. So I was aware of this when I went home.
Yeah.
So we go back to Saturday night, 8 o'clock, phone call from Strangeways, never got one. I did think, I knew what it would be about not answering it anyway. I answered the phone. So, can you come in, please? We're having problems with Danny G. So, like a lot of people in the prison, I mouthed off a bit about the tornado, because what used to happen with tornado, when they went on a jolly, as it used to be, you know, off to some prison that's rioting, there was a lot of time spent around, sitting around, playing cards, eating pizza, getting paid a decent rate of pay. And it was usually jobs for boys. So certain individuals would be off doing that all the time, and the rest you didn't get a look in. So seeing as I was one of those people who protested that, I figured I'd better turn in for this one. Now me, first thing I did when I get off the phone, I went to Lavme and boom, vacated my bowels, you know, got rid of everything. Bit of adrenaline, bit of nerves, knew what I was going into, away we go. So I gets into prison, I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So they've asked for 12 volunteers. Yeah, they've been phoning people up. So when I gets there in this room, there's 12 staff. There were more than 12 staff. There was a duty governor, which you always have on shift. There was a big daft scouse PO. And there were some dog handlers and things like this. So you got staff there, but there were 12 lads. There were no lasses there who turned in to deal with Danny G.
What does PO mean for Americans?
PO is a principal officer, right? In our prison system, English prison system, you've got prison officer. Your next rank up is a senior officer. They're wing based, so they're still on coal face, as it were. They're still on shop floor. Then you've got a principal officer. He's sort of the link between a senior officer and a governor.
I see.
So every area, every wing, the segregation unit would have a PO.
Yeah.
But also another one of their jobs was duty manager, shift manager. So one day they might be looking after K-wing, the next day they might be duty manager. And they used to call that position Oscar 1. You had an Oscar 1 and an Oscar 2.
Yeah.
And then above them, like I said, they were governors of various grades. So, very light-hearted, chitty chat going on in this room. Few sexist jokes, like there always is. So, I'm sort of looking around myself. I'm not the hardest man on planet, Shaun, right? But I have been about. I've got a toughness. I've played rugby all my life. So, I'm looking about some of the people who were there, and I'm thinking, right, Danny G, we don't know what state of play is till we have a briefing. So I got kitted up. So we're all sat there, full gear. We also wear balaclavas. Tornado, you've got all the gear, big boots, belt, the lot. And you've got helmet and a balaclava as well. So you are anonymous to the prisoner. So then we had a briefing. PO updated everyone. He'd been kicking off. He got a lighter in his cell. And he was threatening to set the cell on fire. Now, like I said, there's no furniture in this cell, but he'd obviously got clothing. I don't know what else he got in there. But he said he'd been kicking off, so the plan was to go in, strip search him, remove the lighter, clear debris from the cell, and then back out the cell. So
simple as that.
Well, simple as that. That's how it come across. And me, again, I'm thinking, right, Danny G... Yeah, strip searching. Strip searching, very difficult. Under restraint, yeah. So someone of his size would be very difficult because he's not going to give his lighter up easily. So again, lots of joviality.
The lighter's going to be inside his...
Possibly. Prisoners will hold things inside the cell, up the back passage, drugs, lighters, things like that. At night... You know, they tend not to think that anyone's going to be coming in a cell, so they will remove them and leave them on the side till morning. You know, you don't have to sleep all night with your mobile phone up here. So there you go. So again, you know, no illusions me. I'll be honest. Okay, this is how it happens. Then we get to the CNR coordinator. Oh, I need to tell you about the officers. So there's 12 officers. 6 of these officers are... CNR instructors. Now, a CNR instructor, control and restraint. That is what every prison officer, private or public sector, is taught. You have 1 week of your training where you're taught to restrain prisoners, working in a 3-officer team. You're taught locks from various mixed martial arts, wrist locks, elbow locks, this sort of thing. It's a safe method for staff and prisoners of moving people and restraining people. Let's go back Charlie Bronson, old days. You know, he's in Belmarsh kicking off. You get 6 biggest, hardest screws to go in. He's a street fighter. He's going to get battered, but they're going to get battered as well. The vast majority of prisoners, within a minute of kicking off or whatever, they're under restraint and away you go. So, there's 6 CNR instructors. So, these guys have had extra training. They teach CNR to the rest of prison officers. And there's 6 ordinary prison officers. But we're all kitted up exactly the same.
So you think the odds are in your favour?
Me? No, at no point was I comfortable with any of this. And I'm not just saying that.
Yeah.
I'm a realist, me.
Yeah.
You know, so...
But 12 against 1 and 6 specially trained?
Well, you would think so. What can I say? Anyway, I need to mention the uniforms as well, because this is quite relevant. So, you've all seen riot police, prison officers on TV. They've all got the same helmets, same as the military. You've all got the same fire retardant overalls, your arm pads and that. Well, our instructors, CNR instructors, haven't. They've got like the full SWAT gear. They weren't supposed to have full SWAT gear. That's what the nationals wear. They're professionals, like I say. Yeah? The reason they've got it is because the CNR coordinator decided to spend a good bit of the budget on nice German helmets with goggles and fancy gloves and things like this. So they look a bit different to us, you know, a bit smarter.
Yeah. Is that going to somehow put them at a disadvantage?
Well, no. I need to tell you this for later on in the story. So, you know, they look all dead. Theirs are fitted. Our overalls, one size.
Yeah.
So, geezer next to me, who's 5'7" and not 18 stone like me, has got baggy ass and...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we looked a bit ragmuffin. So the CNR coordinator then gives the briefing. Right, we're going to go in. 10 of us are going to strip search him and get the lighter. 2 are going to go in with brushes and sweep all the debris up. Yeah. So he points at me and he says, "You're taking a brush in."
Debris duty.
So I looked at him like, and you know, I'm thinking it was done in a sort of sarcastic, funny way, but you know, I didn't get on with the guy, and he probably saw it as an insult. But you know, I'm thinking, okay, I'll take the brush in. Man up, I've turned up. You know what I mean? I'm getting paid the same. I'll sweep up. So the briefing goes something like that. What's going to happen is all in single file, so that they're in single file. Yeah.
Yeah.
In your German helmets, goggles. There's 6 of them lined up with a small shield. Yeah. Hands on each of the shoulders. They're going to go in first. They're going to restrain him. Then we're the second human centipede behind. Not like that nasty film, but we're the second human centipede, yeah? With me and... I can't remember the other lad. I do know him, his name, with the brushes. Yeah. We're at the back. So, we've been in the jail now 4 hours. I got the phone call at 8, maybe 3 hours. I got the phone call at 8. It's now 2 in the morning. So he lines up. Again, nerves me. Played rugby all my life. Every rugby game I've played, bad nerves to the point of almost being physically sick with adrenaline. So I've got my brush, you know, like you do. They've got the shields, and in we go, 2 human centipedes. So when they go steaming in, first thing that no one thought about, it was dark. Yeah, the lights were out. Now, here's the thing, you see. I've already told you we've got observation panels in this cell. Well, Danny G, being very athletic and very strong, somehow has crabbed his way up the walls of this cell and used wet toilet paper to cover the observation points.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's also blocked the one in the door. But no one's thought about the light. So as we goes in, and I'm the last one in, and you know what it's like, people start pushing, so they've all piled in, and the light's out. I'm a bit of a giggle now, yeah? The lights come on, so I've got my brush on the floor, and I looks, and there's 7 screws on Danny G's head and shoulders, and 1 on his legs, yeah?
So they've got him.
And a few others milling about. No, they haven't actually got him. You see, here's the thing. Danny G's not normal. He was laid the other way. So there's 7 screws on his legs and 1 on his shoulders. So I must have spent at least 10 seconds with my brush trying to get rid of debris, and he's trying to get up already.
Okay.
So I'm on his shoulders with a lad called Gilly. He's a Yorkshireman like myself and a rugby player, so obviously he's up for it. So he looks up at us, because everyone's now realising that actually they're not on his head. And he said something like, "You dirty screw bastards coming in when I'm asleep." Yeah. And now realisation is really sinking in, because he's trying to get up, and there's probably 9 or 10 staff. So a couple of lads are out of there now. Yeah.
They've got scared.
Listen, I'm focusing on his head and him trying to get up. Yeah. Imagine this is the bed he's laid on. So this is 3 inch high. So Gilly has got his wrist over the edge, and he's got his full weight on it, trying to bend his wrist in some sort of lock. Yeah. Not a chance. It's not moving. He's still trying to get up. I don't know what happened next, Shaun. It was one of those, like when you're a kid and you're all running and pushing each other out of the way, yeah, to get out the cell door. You're laughing now. I can't exactly describe. I was one of the last, but I'm facing in the cell. The last man out, who's facing me, Danny G grabbed hold of his belt. So we have a thick belt, and it was honestly like one of those cartoons where the cat runs past the dog grabs its collar, and its legs and arms carry on running. Yeah, and he rags him back into the cell.
He managed to get up then?
Oh, of course yeah.
With 9 people on him?
Yeah. The people on his legs and that, everyone's sort of up. I couldn't tell you that. 10, 15, 20 seconds. I couldn't tell you exactly what happened.
How strong is this guy?
He's very strong. You know, he was probably bench pressing a legit 160 plus kilos and squatting. He's a big, but it's his attitude, it's his mental attitude. He's not fearful of prison officers.
Yeah.
He's not fearful of staff. You know, he's been battered all his life, and he's mad now.
Oh, so this is just beginning.
Yeah, so he rags this guy back in. So what ends up is 4 of us, 3 were CNR instructors, and myself, literally wrestles this officer off him and chucks him out of the cell. Yeah?
Yeah.
So then we're in a position, there's 4 of us with his helmets on and his balaclavas, with his fists up, and now it's serious. You can see it on his face. He's ready for it now. Yeah?
Right.
Ready to spar. Now, people will think, 4 staff, you've got helmets on and everything. I'll tell you now, they're not good odds. There's not a lot of prison officers would like to be in that position. I'm just being honest. Yeah?
Because it was Danny G.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, he's not some normal prisoner, this anyway.
Yeah.
Gilly, he caught him one, chinned him. The floor is also covered in debris and it's wet. I don't know whether it were piss or whatever. But
Has he greased himself up like Bronson
no, he
did?
No, he didn't grease him up. He didn't know we were going in.
Okay.
He didn't know we were going in. I'll tell you about the greasing up later. But there is water on the floor. You know, he's been on one. He's been pissed off. And the stuff that was in the cell is all over the cell. Normally, when they go in their prisons, they have nothing. But so he slipped and we run him like a pack of dogs. Now, it might have been 10 seconds. It might have been 30. Kicks, boots, fists. Yeah. He covers up. We back out the cell. Now, that's self-preservation, that. The paperwork we did at the end of the night reflected what happened. You know, I punched him 4 or 5 times. That officer put that officer put that. Yeah?
Yeah.
So we're out of the cell now. We backs up. We just give us a cell times to get out of the cell. When it turns round, we got a 10-metre walk to an office. It's an adjudication room, but it's basically an office where we'd had the briefing. So that landing, apart from the governor and the PO, is empty. There's no 8 staff. Me, as I'm taking my helmet off, are thinking, where's the other staff? Yeah? So we gets in the briefing room, and three of CNR instructors who weren't in there sparring with Danny G. One of them has got his overalls off already. Now, they take some putting on overalls. He's got his pads off, he's got his overalls off, and he's screaming at the PO, you need to get the nationals in. Right? So what he means is, I'm not going back in there, get the professionals in, we shouldn't have to do this. The other 2 of them were Southerners, no offence, but you know. I remember I said.
No offence to James and Joe.
No offence to any of you.
I'm from bloody Widnes.
Listen. Oh yeah, good lad. It's that neutral accent. Anyway, what I'm saying is there were 2 of us Northerners there. You know, we've been in there like it would be. So I actually said to one of them, "Are you all right?" Because he'd gone white. That's adrenaline. We know it is. You know, they're not exactly cowards, but adrenaline had got the better of them. They weren't for going back in. So they're screaming at the PO. The PO went absolutely fucking nuts. Big Scouse lad. If I need you to go back in there, you're going back in there. We're not. What you've got to look at, you've got to manage prisoners like this. The first sign of trouble, you can't be calling for the nationals coming in, yeah?
Yeah.
Anyway, it all sort of calms down. The big daft Scouse PO goes back to Danny G's cell and has a look inside. And this is the bit I was telling you about, and he's got a pair of goggles on, dancing about. You know, 6'2", 17 stone, with the goggles on. So the PO says, Danny, give me the goggles. Nah, give me some burn. So there's 2 things going to happen here, right?
Burn cigarettes.
Yeah. He wants to smoke. He's got a lighter, you know, he's got a lighter. Yeah. So he wants to smoke. So there's 2 things you look at here. We've been in, he's taken a few digs, you know. We've disrupted his evening. Do you give him some burn and de-escalate the situation and get the goggles back? Or do you go back in there where half the team have already said they're not going back in and send them back in for the goggles? Anyway, you've got to look at the de-escalation, right?
Yeah.
So PO, bit of negotiation, goggles come out, bit of burn goes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we has a debrief and we does his paperwork. So maybe Oh, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, we've all done his paperwork. They stand us down, which means you can go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for that, I've been paid 9 hours at overtime rate or whatever. To be fair, after the debrief, 3 lads who were there, and they're not all like me, they said, you know, it was above their pay grade. They were tornado trained, but all 3 of them were decent officers, but they're not the sort of officer who is going to be fronting people. They're not all like that.
Yeah.
They'd follow you into battle, but they're not going to be fronting people themselves.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It takes all sorts. Someone with a bit of brawn and then someone who can do the talking. So they stood down. So that was the Danny G incident.
Is he free now, Danny G?
I don't know.
Was he doing a big one back then?
In and out of prison, I would think he'd be in and out of prison. The thing in Liverpool now, there's lots of youngsters coming on the scene. So, you know, I've sort of lost track of what's happening with that. But, you know, very naughty lad. The thing was later on, though, there was a lot of banter and storytelling and things like that. And it was about 3 years later, I was sat on healthcare in association with some prisoners. That's where, you know, prisoners are playing pool, watching TV. And an officer told me about this incident, this Danny G incident, as though he was there. And I know for a fact he weren't. So I sat for 20 minutes while he gave me all the details of the Danny G. And what you have to understand is, in that job, some people steal your lives. You know, I didn't interrupt him and I didn't correct him. Yeah, I didn't embarrass him. I let it go. I did get pulled in the office not long after the incident and told to keep my mouth shut because people were winding people up and people were getting upset.